Welcome, everyone. We're doing another episode of Indie Reads Aloud, and Shannon Waite, one of my very favorite people on the planet, is back on the program again, and she's going to read for us again. And if you didn't hear her read the first time, you really need to go back because it's a spectacular book and it's very unique and very different, and you need to go back and look for her other episodes. So do that. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, thanks for
I'm
having
so
me.
glad. I'm so glad you came back. I am so excited. I can not express to you how excited I am that your writing career is flourishing the way it is.
Thank you.
Um, I just every time I see that you're doing something new on social media or I get to see you at an event, I just get little butterflies going, I know her. She's getting really cool and she's doing these things and I know her. And it's I get all Twitter pated and I get fangirly about it. It's neat.
I'm working hard at that.
I think it's fantastic. So you're also an English teacher. What
Yes,
age group do you warp?
high school.
High school. So have have you noticed that the students that you teach are showing creative writing bents? Is this something that any of your students are thinking about doing?
Like wanting to creative write.
Yeah, like wanting to write their own novels.
In the past, yes. This year, not as many. I do sponsor the journalism club though. I've got some students that are really excited about writing about like nonfiction stuff. But yeah.
That's very cool. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you did an anthology once of your students' work.
I did for 4 years at my previous district. I did a unit where the students we spent a semester like looking at this question, and students, based on the things we read and discussed, they then explored their own answers to that question through their writing, and we wrote essays and stories and poems, and then they picked one of those to spend a week revising, and then me and some teachers selected the strongest pieces that worked the best together that ended up getting published in a collection that got sold at a local bookstore, and we had a launch party and the students did a
That's
reading, and it
fantastic.
was wonderful. I did that for 4 years, and that's the like proudest moments of my life is that project.
That's very cool. I'm so glad that you're sharing that with younger people because I'm all about sharing the written word and getting other people excited about it. So I'm really glad that you're blazing that torch as well.
Yes.
So the last time you were on the program, we read from your interactive novel, which is an amazing thing for adult literary fiction. Um, this book, The Woman or The Women, plural, is another connected piece to
Yeah.
that novel, right? This is a
Yeah.
collection of short stories that have to do with the same characters, right?
Yes.
So before we start this conversation, because I'm not sure where it's going to go, I just want to give everybody this listener advisory. This is literary fiction for grown-ups. There are references to mature language and situations in this book. So please, if you have
Yes.
little ears nearby, preview this episode before you share it, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so on the back of the book, it says 39 transgressive short stories that are raw, relatable, and fearlessly honest. Can you give me an idea of what topics you touch on in these 39 stories?
Wow. Yes. So, I mean, I can read the
I mean, you don't
content
have to
on this
list them
page.
all. You don't have to list them all, but just
Um,
give us a sampling of like the tenor of the emotionality we're going to experience in this book.
so like you mentioned, it's a companion book to the interactive novel. It's 39 stories told from the points of views of 11 of the girls and women from the original book. So there's characters that have multiple stories in here, and it really just explores these different experiences that girls and women can or often have, which involves, like shame and guilt and like friendships and like all these like risque things. There's, prostitution, there's abortion, there's like ideas of death, there's anxiety, there's
So it's a
like
whole
drugs.
bunch of every woman has thought about these things on one level or another at some point.
Yes, yeah. I had one reader from the UK say that, she read this and saw herself or like her friends in a lot of these stories, so she felt like it was a very universal book because it was, she's reading it from a different country and still felt
Right.
like it resonated with her.
That's very cool.
So,
So this is a companion piece
yes.
to Raising Women. Do you have to read it before or do you have to read it after? How does the
Yes.
chronology of it work?
So I wrote Raising Women first and then felt like it wasn't done. I was like, these girls have more to say, which is why I was like, we're gonna give them their own stories. And so that's how it came to be. But it is a collection of short stories on its own. People that have not read Raising Women have read this and said like it made sense. They enjoyed it. They felt like it was just a collection of, stories about women's experiences. So you can read it on its own. You can read it before. If you read it before Raising Women, then you know a lot more details about the characters going into Raising Women, which maybe then informs the choices that you make.
Okay.
If you read Raising Women first and then you read this after, you then read this and you're like, oh, now I understand why those characters
So it could
do the
fill
things
in
that
the
they do.
holes or
So,
it could prepare you to make different choices.
yeah,
So,
so
so it could
you
work
can.
either way.
Yeah, I just like to write weird stuff. I'm out here just doing whatever I want. So it's different, it's unusual, but yeah, you can read it whenever you want to read it, and it's just the same characters, and so you know more about them when you read it. I call it
Well,
an
that's
expansion pack. So it's like The Sims, and then you got like Sims Date Night. So you had Sims, but now you got Sims Date Night. You can do more with The Sims.
that's very cool. That's very, very cool. And one of the things I've always appreciated about your writing is that you do your own thing. You do not pull punches and you don't hide.
Nope.
I love that you are so out front with your writing. That was one of the things I loved about the critique group we were in when I read your pieces. It was just so raw and just really, really relatable. So I'm thrilled that you're bucking tradition and doing your own thing. I think it's a great thing.
Thank you.
Okay, I would love to hear some of this. This is a collection of short stories called The Women. And what story are you going to read from for today?
All right, we're gonna read Kettle Carly's story called Young and Reckless. This is 2005. Uh, Carly, she Raising Woman, has its pathways and then also has some scenes that are not in any pathway that you can only find if you look for them in the pages of the story. Carly is a character in one of those scenes, so if you read the pathways, you're never gonna find her. But this is her
That's
story.
very cool. That I definitely see the comparison to the expansion pack now. That's very awesome. Okay,
So,
I'm ready to listen.
all right,
When you're ready, read away.
yes, this is Carly's story, Young and Reckless. Jason, the school's quarterback, was huddled in the corner behind the basement's pool table with a group of 6 kids surrounding him and a condom halfway up his nose. The overhead fluorescents were off, but a few applique gold floor lamps that buzzed like insects cast weird streams of light around the space. I heard Stan tell Jason to hurry up, and then Stan mocked him. Isn't this like your 10th time doing it or something? And it was true. Jason was known for excelling at the condom snorting challenge. A challenge that only a few took on because it requires exactly what it sounds like. Sticking one of those rubbers in your nostril, breathing in as hard as you can, sliding it through your throat, and pulling it out of your mouth. But there Jason was. Might have actually been his 15th time doing it. Wrinkled up with pain and embarrassment, unable to snort the latex down his pharynx this time. He gagged, his skin furrowed like the folds on a Shar-Pei, and the crowd booed. Jason, get it together. I watched the spit drip out of his mouth as he second-guessed the whole thing and almost began to pull the penis straitjacket back out his nose. The crowd booed louder. Don't forget, though, he was a quarterback, not a quitter. Also, the condom got stuck. For a split second, Jason had to consider what might have been the hardest decision of his life. Pull it harder out his nose and dislodge, or reach back in his mouth and hope he could slide it out the way he originally planned. The girl that Jason thought he liked watched him as he cried. Our idiot spent 11 seconds unable to breathe because of this escapade, and then he finally got it out through his mouth, the way he'd planned all along. The kids around him cheered, myself included, and some patted him on his back as he cried out, "Oh my God," swallowing the biggest gulp of air in his life. What's funny about this story isn't that Jason made a fool of himself, but rather that this was all going on right behind loose Leslie sitting on the couch, because unlike Jason, she didn't use condoms. Leslie was 17. I mean, a lot of us were. While the party in the basement had been booing and then cheering, she rubbed her wet fingers along the couch's burgundy velvet, dragging temporary lines in the fabric. She held a red solo cup in her right hand with her name in Sharpie, all caps, on the front. Some of the sloppy drink dripped down the side, leaving her fingers wet and sticky. She was 2 drinks in, and yeah, we were young. But most of us knew that alcohol and babies didn't mix, and she was clearly pregnant. I think that's why Stan, with his wrestling shoulders and black ponytail, sat right on top of the velvet portraits she was drawing after the condom commotion died. He had to have known her guard was down. Then, at the worst time he could, Leslie's boyfriend Drew clunked down the stairs in his chunky sneakers when he caught her pressed against Stan. Her fingers slipped between his locks and her beer breath stuck to his neck. Drew wasted no time flipping the mid-century coffee table in front of the couch so that one of its wooden legs came loose. He told her to fuck off. Mitch said, "Haha, that's incredible," when we almost got hit but missed from where we stood. I rolled my eyes, but I didn't think Mitch saw, and I told him I'd be back, even though I wouldn't be. See, I had desperately wanted attention that night, and he really wanted to show someone his new scar left over from some stitches on his knee. He felt playing lacrosse or something. But he blushed when I lied and told him the scar was cool. How lame. And then he wouldn't talk about anything else, so I was no longer interested. As I walked away from Mitch, Drew, who was right there, put his hand against the small of my back. "Do you want to be here? Let's go somewhere else," he said, motioning toward the stairs. First, Leslie got pregnant. Then after that night, all of Richard M. Ross High School thought I slept with her ex-boyfriend. Well, everyone except Leslie. But I didn't do that, sleep with Drew. And I'm sure I'm not the reason he broke up with her. There were a million things the girl could have done to make him break up with her. But I was over the party. I'd gotten nowhere with Mitch and wasn't particularly interested in anyone from the condom crew. So when Drew pushed me on no accord of my own, I let him. We wove through the throng of kids swaying, smushed against each other, sitting on countertops in the kitchen, then out the back door. And I left the unfinished drink I had on my table because that High Life was the cheapest alcohol at any of the parties I'd been to. The house was down the street from a park. That's when me and Drew, 2 kinda drunk high schoolers, lay down on a merry-go-round, staring up at the smashed glass of stars. "What a bitch," Drew said as he bent his arms across his chest. "She did a lot of shady things, you know." "Yeah, I heard." "I don't even know if that baby's mine, I guess." I wondered what it would be like to not know if a kid was yours. I didn't have that luxury. A breeze blew past us and Drew pulled his hood up over his head. He said, "You know, some people have an irrational fear of what others think." "Sure." I couldn't tell if that was meant to be a question or a comment. He added quickly, "No idea why." I thought about how some people have been told what to be like for so long that who they are disappears. They don't even know how to think of themselves outside of the expectations that are shoved down their throats. It's those people who care a lot about what others think. And I was one of those people. My ex was a football player who asked me if I'd meet him at the mall for our first date. I spent all morning putting on eyeliner and mascara and layering different shirts so that by the time I was finished, I was embarrassingly sweaty. When we sat in the food court, though, he told me that I had nice lips and that he'd never known anyone like me. He knew how to make butterflies happen, and I fell in love immediately. He asked me to be his girlfriend after school the next week at the bus stop, and of course I said yes. Then, not even 2 months later, we were leaving the movie theater when he told me he had something he needed to say. I said, "Sure, go ahead and say it." But I could have never guessed what would come out of his mouth next. He said I was pretty, but if I lost some weight, I'd be hotter. I don't remember how I responded, but I remember feeling like I died. He swore he wasn't being mean and that he was just looking out for me. He wanted me to be the best version of myself I could be. And when I looked in the mirror later, I agreed with him. Of course he was right. Drew added to his thought on irrational fears. There's even a name for that phenomenon, which I think is weird, although he never did give it. I knew Drew from English class, where we had to write a poem, and he read his aloud. It could have been about anything he wanted, but he wrote about Leslie. I knew it was about her because he mentioned her dirty straw-colored hair and the freckle on her pointer finger, except he talked about those two things nicer in it. He also described the slender hourglass figure she had, and I guess even if she annoyed me, I felt a little in love with her too by the time he finished reading. Drew said, "The pizza in the cafeteria last week sucked." Sure did. He used his feet to push the metal merry-go-round slab that we were spread across in a circle. Some stones below the structure made clacking noises. The stars moved slightly, and it looked like someone had kicked the glass pile apart. I rolled into his side and pressed against his warm body, hoping he didn't notice my shape. He talked some more about school lunches, and even though I didn't give a shit, I listened and nodded and then left my head against his shoulder when I finished. I felt bad for Drew. It wasn't his fault Leslie got around, got pregnant, and got drunk. She was young and reckless, so he had to know there was no way things would end well if she stayed on that path. I'd heard about all kinds of things that have happened to women who, like Leslie, made bad decisions. On the morning news, for example, the lady anchor with chunky gold earrings said two men lit a pregnant woman on fire. The next month, the same station reported that a school shooter's mom drank heavily when she was pregnant. So who's to say that didn't influence his choices? Then my cousin told us over Thanksgiving dinner that a woman she knew had given birth to a girl with fetal alcohol syndrome, and now the 26-year-old acts like a first grader. It was hard for me to hate Leslie completely, though, because babies make you ugly. They make you undesirable. The stomach fat, wide hips, stretch marks, swollen feet and toes, loose vagina, and boobs that resemble deflated balloons. You become a person people don't like to look at, a person they'd never actually want to be or be with. Who wants to live like that? Then, to make it all worse, on top of an oversized, warped body and getting lit on fire, I mean, you're pregnant, so you end up with a kid, and you're supposed to keep that kid alive. I don't like to admit this, but I know all of this is true because I'd been pregnant once too. I spent the next few months with my nose in magazines, reading about movie stars and how they attracted men, about what they ate. So I dieted. I looked at how they dressed. I imitated their makeup. I did everything I could to reincarnate myself. That's why, when I sat in the big handicap stall in the supermarket bathroom, so I could comfortably spread my legs over the toilet and piss on a stick, and realized two lines had showed up on the test I swiped, I wanted it gone. I never told Ethan what I did. Sex had finally started improving because he remembered lube. He agreed to do it in some place other than a car, and he finally stopped talking. He said those rude things when he talked. I had also lost 2 pounds and was working on losing some more. I didn't want to ruin things. Keeping the secret didn't matter, though. He broke up with me just 9 months into our relationship anyway, and on the 1 month anniversary of my abortion, too. So I didn't know what else to say except Leslie was bad. Bad and pregnant. I empathized a little. Drew started sitting next to me in class. He'd write me small notes that he'd fold up and pass to me when our teacher turned around. One said lunch the day before sucked. I gave him a thumbs up. Another said our teacher was a prick, and I made sure to throw that one out. After a week of this, he passed me one that said he was going to the football game. I wrote, cool, and passed it back. He asked if I was going, and even though I wasn't planning on it, I told him yes, and he wrote back that he'd see me there. Then, squished in the bleachers by superfan parents yelling at the coaches, my gangly knees crushed together, Drew got shoved into me, but didn't try too hard to move away. His hand slid onto mine. His mouth against my ear, he half shouted so I could hear that we should get some food after. I nodded my head yes. Sitting in the 24-hour McDonald's parking lot with a large fry and 2 strawberry shakes, he told me I had something on my mouth. He could get it off, and then he kissed me. Then he asked if I knew Leslie well, but like, what? I didn't care. I told him no, because I didn't. He sighed and told me it's easy to love and hate her. He wasn't sure which one he was feeling half the time. I kissed him back, but I had the thought of Leslie kissing him with her sloppy seconds lips at the same time. I wondered if he liked that she was pregnant. He kissed me again and then reached for a few fries. Leslie and I didn't have any classes together. We didn't even have the same lunch. If I'm being honest, I only ever saw her up close in person at the party, so I had to go out of my way to find her at school. She was next to the vending machine, rummaging through her purse for another quarter. She mumbled something about wanting some hot chips. She was even bigger than she was the night Jason almost died snorting condoms. So I did what I had to do and took a quarter out of the change purse I carried with me. Put it on the security desk next to the machine, set it down in a way that it made a loud noise so she'd notice, and just tipped my head down at the coin when she looked at it. Like, here you go. That asshole took the quarter, shoved it hard into the machine, and pressed the button that dropped some regular potato chips down. She didn't even say thank you. She ripped the flimsy chip bag open with her teeth and walked away. Hey, I called after her, skipping a little to catch up. What? She put one potato chip between her teeth and crunched. I looked at the way her fitted tank top didn't actually fit her, and instead naturally rolled up, revealing her big belly and red tiger stripes. I thought about how Leslie could be a mother soon. Too soon. I asked her how everything was going, all things considered. She shrugged, her shoulders like little whack-a-moles popping up. I pointed at her bowling ball belly and asked how the kid was. Big, she said. She put another few chips between her teeth. By this time, she was wearing slippers to school and shuffled along the hallways lined with aluminum foil, gum wrappers, loose hair, and dust. Those scraps would get caught in the fuzzy fabric of her shoes. After some thought, and me following her wobbles to whatever class she was going to that I didn't have, she added, bigger than what I asked for. I wasn't sure what she expected after getting pregnant, but pregnant bitches get bigger. Like a lot bigger. Did you want this? After a pause. No. She wasn't breathing much, kind of wheezing and carrying some books in her bent elbow. The one on top was titled Disturbance in American History. I wondered if she'd been lying to all of us and was further along than she said. She added, my mama doesn't even care. Oh? Yeah. She sat down in a blue plastic chair in the hallway outside a classroom. The legs on it squeaked. It wasn't for her, but she made it hers. I considered telling her that we should probably move on. The bell rang a few minutes ago and all, but I didn't. She had me when she was 15. When did your mama have you? I wasn't sure. Maybe 25? I told Leslie. Close to 30. Huh. So she had it all figured out when she had you. I couldn't have been sure at that time, but I said to her, I don't think anyone has it figured out. I do think what I said is true. I'm pretty sure my mom knew as little about raising me as Leslie's mom did. That's scary. Yeah, I guess so. You actually afraid of that? I looked at the exercise ball fixture she had. She nodded her head. Then, seemingly changing subjects, she said, you know, I've been craving hot chips and root beer floats. I had never gotten far enough along in my pregnancy to get cravings, but root beer floats were actually my favorite dessert, so I had to admit she had good taste. How far along are you? A little over 5 months, I think. She looked a lot bigger. Has anyone talked to you about your other options? I asked. Mrs. Farley walked past us in the hallway, stopped to do a double take, and asked us where we were supposed to be. The rhinestone chain hanging from her cat-eye glasses shook and shimmered when she came to a halt. Leslie said she was having pregnancy pains and that our teacher told us we could come out here for a minute to cool off, and, that's all it took. Unsure what to say. Worried it might be against the law, probably. Mrs. Farley just walked away. Leslie said, what options? I know that that's probably my time, so we're not done, but I guess that's where we will
Wow.
stop.
Holy moly. Okay, so raw, relatable, and fearlessly honest on top of the word transgressive are definite adjectives to use in this book. This is really I I don't think this is the kind of literature that we get access to enough. You know, so much of the women's lit that we read is really overly romanticized. And I like that what you're doing here is showing us a different slice of that.
hmm
It's very, very cool. I'm looking forward to reading this.
Thank you.
Really well done. I'm so impressed with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. You have another book that you're working on now, right?
Yes, I'm working on it.
Okay, so any idea what that is about and when it might be released?
I'm not sure of the release date yet. I've just began this book. I definitely know what it's about, though. So it's another interactive novel, and
Oh,
it's
good.
going to be exploring um, stealing.
Okay.
And yes, there's going to be four forms of stealing that you could dive into with this book.
Okay, that's an intriguing. I like how you're leaving that dangling there for me, because as an author myself, my imagination immediately, based on what you've already read today, there's a lot of places you could go with that.
Mhm.
So cool. I'm so glad that you are continuing your writing career, and I'm really pleased that you decided to share some of it with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited that I was able to come here.
And I look forward to having you back again.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.